Today we're looking at a bunch of stash players for Dynasty Fantasy Football. Some of these guys are going to be at the end of your bench. Some of these guys are for deeper leagues. Some of these guys are for more shallow leagues. Some of these guys are just buy lows. But we're just looking at cheap options. And we're looking at so many guys. There's a flavor for somebody. And if not, there's going to be another video. So just stay tuned for that. But before we dig in, you need to click that subscribe button right now. We're looking at these players every day. We're looking at the player values every day. We're looking at trades. We're looking at stashes to help you build your team. Only place here kicking out this much content, Devy, high school recruiting, dynasty redraft, everything else. Hit that button. Stop missing out. This first player started off from a question I saw on Twitter. Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks. They want to know how to value him. They want to know what to manage his stock, how to do it, and everything else. He's a player that's falling like a knife right now. They added in the rankings. The last time I talked about him, he was RB29. Now he's RB38 in sentiment, not like concrete or anything. We're coming back from an injury and probably not playing in 2025. So we're going to have to wait a bit. However, this is a stock with a second-round price tag next to its name. A stock that has some juice in it. A player that everybody was hyped up going into the season. Now you're seeing it on the cheap. The price is still kind of up there compared to some players and rookies and young guys that can give you value in fantasy production right now. But when you look at this chart, you look at the start of the season, you see him in training camp, and if he's not out there, he's not playing weeks 1, 2, and 3, which is probably the case, that's going to drop even more. And it's going to fall like a rock. Some people will have them stashed on the IR, and they're going to be able to do that for free for a bit. A good bit. IR, pup, whatever. And that might make it easier for them to hold on. He's a player that could bounce back up. Once he starts working out, people start seeing that, and they might test the waters a bit when they see him work out. And then you got an asset here that's going to increase in price, and you can sell or do what you want. There is some upside here. It's a long row to hoe with this guy. He's a stash play now, and he'll become a cheaper stash play as we get deeper into the offseason, as we get another look at these rookies. Probably even a deeper stash play as we get through this weekend with the Combine, as people fall in love with more of these running backs. That's what's going to happen. We'll get into August. He'll be even cheaper. But as a stash play, okay for the end of your bench. Just know that when he starts working out, when the news starts to hit, the value will come up a little bit, and you might want to just use that to sell if you want, or at least kick the tires. Keaton Mitchell was a part of that question. And Keaton Mitchell is a different type of asset. We got Derrick Henry there, but standalone, what he is a Will Fuller type of running back on the back end of your bench. And it really depends on how deep of your bench and whether or not you want him or not. But when he's on the field and he's getting some touches, he has the potential to pop one off on any given touch with that 4.3 speed. He's electric with the ball in space. He's just electric. And that could allow him to house it on any given run, eat up chunks of yards, but also limited him getting workload. He's always going to be sharing the work at Baltimore. Unless something happens to Derrick Henry, something happens to his backfield. A lot of upside to this kid. You're looking at an upside play for a short term here if something happens, but that's a cheap play to make at an RB61 price tag, so he should be damn near free for you if you want to make that move. Sean Tucker's getting cheaper, and the thing about this is we've seen him in opportunity. We've seen him produce. We know they like him. One running back needs to go down, and he'll get more opportunity. They use 2 running backs in his backfield. So the odds of one running back getting hurt between 2 running backs versus 1 is rather increased. So there's a chance he plays some games with some good opportunity share, getting good opportunities next year. And it could be a slew of 2 to 3 games. You're looking at RB66, and if you're looking for a stash running back, and running back is the position I like to stash. I like to be heavy with good wide receivers. I like a good core of wide receivers. 4, 5, 6 of them. I want that good core. Running back, I want my list long. because those guys during the season go up and down value due to injuries. Injuries should increase to the mean this year. They were down this year. So guys like Keaton Mitchell, Sean Tucker, other running backs we're going to talk about today, they're going to get more opportunities next year. They should. Doesn't mean they will. They should, due to the numbers that we're looking at. There were barely any injuries from Halloween to Thanksgiving time last year, and that should ramp up to some degree. That means there's going to be some opportunities for some of these backup running backs, some of these rookies. Audric Estime is probably going to get nuked by the NFL draft when it comes to value. So if you're looking to buy, you can probably swoop in after that. I look for the Broncos to try to stack more talent around Bo Nix. You got your young quarterback. You like him. You're going to stack talent around him. Where's the talent going to be at in this year's draft? At running back. Any round you want to do it. Maybe double tap the position if you want. 5th round, 7th round, 2nd round, 5th round. Whatever you want to do, whatever comes at you, whatever you're feeling in that moment, there's going to be talent there, and there's going to be talent there in every round that could push Audric Estime. Audric Estime, though, when you go back to his profile at Notre Dame, that man was a monster. A big, thick, bruising running back that moves well, very slick moving laterally. There is some upside in this offense. If he really turns a corner in training camp, I think we just saw like a nibble of what he could do on the field this year. I think he can be better, but that doesn't mean he will. At RB58, you can dance with that if you're looking at him as a stash and not a guarantee for your team. Austin Eckler, if you're looking for a veteran stash, here you go. Short term, not long term, but no running backs long term. No running backs long term. Very few of them are. Austin Eckler here has the upside in the passing game. Got hurt this year. I look for him to get hurt almost every year that he's on the field for the rest of his career. I look for him to be up and down. I look for him to give you a few RB1 weeks every season. I look for similar charts like this for the rest of his career. Maybe like 11 points per game, 12, 13, 9 some years. Just up and down through that little range. But still viable and a good price tag at that range of the rankings. Nick Chubb is going to be exploring a new home. That's going to be tough for him considering this year's running back class. But if we're stepping back up to what we used to be to some capacity, like 80%, 75%, that's still something to get you some fantasy production. At RB62, that might be a little high for what you want, or it might be right there in some leagues and trades where you got your rookies and now you want another upside play for the short term. This could be it if we revert back to something. We did have a 19-point game last year, a 12.5 and a 10-pointer on the Browns. We did not look like Nick Chubb last year. And Nick Chubb, honestly, physically may not ever come back. But sunk cost isn't really there. And if you want to try that out, and if he lands in a good situation, you may want to jump on this now before that happens. Because Nick Chubb is a guy that's going to get under that tsunami bar, squat 600 pounds, get everybody excited in training camp. And if he's paired with somebody like Patrick Mahomes or something stupid like that, there's a return on investment. Cedric Tillman, 56th overall wide receiver. 3 wide receiver 1 weeks. He blew up there. We had some concussions, some injuries. The impact of the season. Those 3 weeks felt like 6 months. I'm not going to lie, in season. When I look back at him, I felt like there was like 6 months of grandiose production. Season's not even really that long, but 3 weeks of production where we're hitting on the high end. We can get those deep targets. Is that ever coming back? Is the volume ever going to come back towards him? But as a back-end wide receiver for your team, if you can stretch it out like that, maybe we get a little cheaper as we get deeper into the offseason. That's okay to roll with. Isaiah Davis is another one of these running backs where he's so cheap, but yeah, he's got potential, and injuries could rack up. We see this on the Jets. We saw that a little bit with Braylon Allen, mostly with Breece Hall over the course of his career. And if one of those running backs go down, if Breece Hall goes down, they're running a committee. That's what they showed us. They are running 2 running backs. Isaiah Davis is cheap. He's a guy that can give you RB2 potential because he's got potential to do that because he already shown that in 2 games. He can rack up some touches. And the opportunities aren't grand. They aren't grand. But he also shows you that he can do something on the field. He's younger. Has a good collegiate program from a smaller school. RB70 price range-esque in sentiment by ADP in these sites. Isaiah Davis, a young running back prospect to pay attention to. Wan'Dale Robinson is cheap. has another year with the Giants at least. He's going to get short targets. Him and Malik Neighbors pair well together. Push it downfield to Neighbors. Or he looks shorter than Wan'Dale Robinson. There's some games where he's in double-digit targets. 3, wide receiver 2 weeks. But he's pretty steady Eddie. I mean, there's a lot of games where he's under 10, but he's also very steady. Like, he's not collapsing. And you're getting a wide receiver 71. Typically, you want to be racked up on the top end at wide receiver, and you're stashed out the ears at running back. But you know you got to do what you got to do. A Wan'Dale Robinson is a guy that can put together a few games every year that can help you out. He gets too many short targets, so he's got to rack up volume and opportunities, especially red zone looks, for him to be very productive in fantasy. But still, at this price tag, that's a good get for a veteran. Will Shipley, RB67, catch ball in the backfield. We got some pop in the step. Showed off a little bit this year. Not much production, but we're going in year 2 with the Eagles. Saquon Barkley does have an injury history. If that ramps back up, then they're using these running backs. And he's a running back that if I have Barkley, I may want to have on my roster if I got the space. But Will Shipley does have some upside in this offense. I think everybody does, except for Jahan Dotson. Malachi Corley, the market's taking a dump on him, but he's very cheap right now. He's an afterthought. Can be used around the line of scrimmage. We're going to have a different quarterback in there. The offense is going to look totally different. Corley might get more opportunity with another offseason. He is a G5 prospect, so small school to NFL, rougher transition. A lot of those G5 wide receivers, they don't pan out, so that's something to pay attention to. But he is the Yak King. He's even cheaper right now, and if you're looking for a cheap asset at wide receiver, there you go. Roman Wilson's very cheap. He was injured last year. We're on the Steelers. I don't see them fueling multiple wide receivers until we figure out what this quarterback situation is going to look like. Quarterback situation's not looking good. Roman Wilson has speed to burn. He's twitched up. He's very technical. He could surprise you. Definitely in training camp, maybe we get a bounce back. Malik Washington on the Dolphins. This could be another opportunity for another young guy to step up, getting a lot of work in the slot. This guy was very productive at Virginia. He gelled well in the offense. He's very cheap if you're looking for a stash wide receiver. There's some upside here with the Miami Dolphins for everybody who's touching the grass. Same thing with Jalen Wright. We got 4.3 speed. We're very explosive. We're going into year 2. Probably needed a year in the NFL just to get our feet wet a little bit, to get brushed up to the game. But the upside's immense. This whole running back depth chart for the Dolphins is immense. Should be seeing more work, more opportunity going into this season. A lot of upside with Jalen Wright. Jacob Cowan with Deebo Samuel probably getting traded or on the outs. Might see more opportunity than expected. He's very cheap, and he's a guy that broke out with 2 different collegiate programs. Was very productive in college. Very technical route runner. Could surprise you. I don't see them fueling more than 2 wide receivers. So you're talking about Jennings, Ayuk, and Pearsall. But if you're looking for a surprise option middle of the year, when injuries hit again for these Niners, there you go. A.D. Mitchell, wide receiver 62, 4.3 speed, stretch in the field. This guy creates separation. That's per by the metrics. And that's up there with some of the top wide receivers in the league and definitely in his draft class. Not much opportunity. Josh Downs soaking it up. You got Michael Pittman. You got Alec Pierce. You actually got a good wide receiver depth chart here. And then you got A.D. Mitchell. I look for him as he develops, turn into a splash option, a very volatile play, a guy that's very up and down. I look for him to earn more opportunities throughout his career. And you may want to buy in now before it's too late. And if you don't, it's okay. And if you do and it doesn't happen, you ain't losing much. Marshawn Lloyd's very cheap. He's going to get cheaper throughout the draft process. Twitched up athletically, not the greatest running back. If he was in this class, he'd probably be lost a little bit in the shuffle. Marshawn Lloyd, though, is on a good team that moves the football, that rocks the pace. He was hurt last year, so there's some learning to do here with the Packers. Just an asset here that's on the back end of your roster that if he turns the corner in training camp and the injuries hit, could be a great addition. Tyler Algier, we got another year with the Falcons behind Bijan Robinson, and Bijan Robinson is the stud, but there's games where Tyler Algier gets big-time opportunities, something to pay attention to. Not used much in the passing game, but he is a prior 1,000-yard rusher, and he's a guy that can hammer it between the tackles. And if Bijan Robinson goes down, you're getting a guy that's going to get all the opportunities, all the goal line looks and is just going to get pounded up the gut and will push for RB1 status. Troy Franklin has a good report of Bo Nix from college. He's cheap. There's no sunk cost in his draft capital. The Broncos can move on anytime. He earns a lot of targets when he's on the field. About 22% of his routes runs, he gets a target. That is something to pay attention to. 4.3 points per game. There are some games where he's racking 4 to 6 targets. That being said, Troy Franklin, if we ramp it up from training camp, we get on the field a little bit more, and we're on the field just a little bit more, that could lead to something. But Jordan Mason, we're watching him, restricted free agent, had a big start to the start of the season, and this is a guy that the Niners might bring back. They might do that unless they draft another back, which they should. That's what I believe they should do, because look how cheap this running back class is with the talent level. But he's proven he can be productive at the NFL level, proven in the system. Maybe you want to bet on the short term. If he's gone, you can flip him for somebody off your waiver wire. Darius Slayton, with this being a weak wide receiver class, Darius Slayton could go to a team that just chucks YOLO balls at him, and he gives you 3 to 4 splash games next year. I get it. Not the next wide receiver one, not the big proclamation, but that could win you a lineup here and there, and maybe you want that as your last wide receiver instead of a guy that you're waiting on multiple years that doesn't hit. That's big-time potential that happens. We saw that last year. We saw that throughout his career. Whoever picks him up is looking to do that with them, and we're looking at a wide receiver class here that is very lackluster. Jordan Whittington might be okay. He might be okay. Now, it's dangerous with the draft because he's not a lights-out talent, but he's also got Sean McVay privilege from what we're hearing from training camp, what we saw on the field. We're running a lot of routes. He might be okay. Injuries are a big deal to him. He's okay on the back end of your roster. He's okay for that wide receiver 80 range. I think if he ever jumps the shark, second-round rookie pick value, you're going to have to sell, but that's what 90% of the guys I've talked about. Elijah Moore is going to be in free agency. Look for him to go to a good situation. Look for him to get a lot of chatter during training camp. You may end up selling during them for like pennies more to get a profit, but he might be a good jigsaw piece in season 2, like if injuries hit your squad or whatever, and you can use him as a fill-in spot for your lineup. Ben Sinnott is the dandy here right now. We're looking at a deep tight end class. He's cheap right now as a good upside play. I think the Commanders' offense is something to buy into. I think Sinnott right now, looking at the tight end spot, a money ball position. If you're looking to hoard a tight end, this is one I would like to look at. Ray Davis is dropping in the ranks. It's the offseason. We're looking at a stellar running back class. However, the Bills just made a big investment at running back with Ray Davis. James Cook has been killing it, and they got to stack up a wide receiver. So the odds of them bringing in another running back is not super great, but it is there. But it's probably more likely in the later rounds because there's also other positions to look at. Ray Davis, when given the opportunity, he hit. And that's a good thing going into this draft season because that might make him a little bit more stable when it comes to competition in his depth chart. He's a very good guy to have on the back end of your bench. There's a lot of upside with him. Those are the stash plays we're looking at this week. Let me know who you're stashing in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. Thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.